The planning board meeting for May 18th, 2023. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the May 4th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes of May 4th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. A&R Land Court, none. Site building permit review, I believe we have a letter.
Mr. Chairman, for 1 Newberry Street, that is the coffee shop lot, the engineering team today submitted a letter requesting continuance. Provided that letter here, so voted to be accepted. Vote continue.
Mr. Chairman, move to accept a letter dated May 18th, 2023 from Solely Engineering, Casey J. Birch, requesting formal continuation of the site plan review before us until the June 1st Planning Board meeting.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You want to grant the extension of time?
Move that the board grant an extension of time for site plan review for the 1 Newbury Street property until June 1st, 2023.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, just before we start, I wanted to just let the board know that per site plan review process, we did meet with the applicants and their team yesterday as part of the construction review committee. We discussed a lot of different things. We'll probably get into that as this goes on. As many of you know, with a large project like this, with engineering, it involves third-party reviews. Our city engineer has been out, so as you know, he has mentioned that this is going to go to third-party review for part of it. So that is getting finalized right now, but we did tell Attorney Ankleys and his team to come this evening and present this project to the board, but full well knowing that this is a process and that this is, will take multiple meetings, but they're here tonight to present this project.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is David Ankleys. I practice law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Mass. And I represent the applicant here, PEG Companies, who is the head of the project that we're about to discuss. I'm not going tonight. We're hoping to be able to go through quickly the letter of intent, the application. You have the abutters list from the assessor's office. I'd like to be able to go through the impact statement with a general description. I'm going to then ask Mike Santos to give us a quick breakdown on traffic study. I'm going to get through physical assessment, community assessment, and try to highlight matters, not get into too much technical aspect at this point in time, because as Drew indicated, we're going to have peer review. It's going to have a couple of proposals that I believe Bob Langley is preparing for us to consider with regard to third-party review. We're also going to have meetings with PMLP regarding access to power and the existing line that has an easement across our property to Barnes & Noble. And we spoke of that yesterday at construction review. We've lined that up. We'll be doing more studies with regard to traffic, and we'll be doing some technical work with Chris Dowling in the fire department, submitting to him the technical drawings, radiuses, and pathways for fire and police as we move on. And so what I'd like to be able to do is go through these highlights, and then I'd have, as I said, Mike Santos give us a quick look at traffic, and then we could have Steve Glowacki from R.G. O'Connell highlight the plans and stormwater management and zoning tables, and hopefully be able to get through this in less than half an hour. I think I've been given 29 minutes. So I don't want to, if there are any questions at all, once we get through, we'd be happy to answer any and all questions. And I'm just trying to avoid the technical stuff that is going to be reviewed by third parties so that we are not repetitious and we don't take up too much of your time. Okay. The letter of intent cites this as being an application for site plan review for a proposed Residence Inn by Marriott. It's Marriott's premium extended stay hotel brand. The project is to be located within and on land currently owned by the mall, North Shore, at North Shore LLC at the westerly side of the mall along Prospect Street. It will be next to Rockland Trust Building and on the northerly side of the Prospect Street traffic light. Entrance will be from the mall on the easterly side of the hotel building, which will face current Barnes & Noble property. The land on which the project will be built is now a parking lot. The building will cover approximately 25.5% of the lot. Gross floor area is about 101,302 square feet. That includes all of the floors. There will be 142 rooms, no restaurant, no function hall, no bar. There will be a pool and a small gym and a pantry for cold drinks and packaged snacks and candy. The project will create at least 30 new jobs directly and a large number of jobs indirectly for the vendors that the hotel normally does business with. Parking and circulation areas and landscaped areas are shown on the plan, which we have submitted together with this application in detail and are fully described in the impact statement, which I will go over with you. The impact statement was prepared by myself and the engineers and the specialists and architects and consultants in the project. A narrative covering economics, lighting, and other subjects set out in the impact statement is also included, as is a detailed traffic study. It is estimated that build-out will take approximately a year, maybe a little bit longer. All of the above information is set forth in the impact statement and detailed in plans which accompany this letter of intent. After we finish, we look forward to answering any and all questions that you have, be they general or of a technical nature. We'd be happy to answer any questions at all. The application, as you can see, satisfies all of the requirements, I believe, of site plan review, as does the material that we submitted in connection with the application. We are looking for ultimately, or will be looking for ultimately, two variances. One is with regard to landscape setbacks. As you can tell, I think by looking at the existing site plan or existing conditions, landscape setbacks are non-existent at the site, except along a small strip along Prospect Street. Those shown represent well in excess of 100% improvement, and in some instances, you'll find that we're creating something that's anywhere between 300% and 400% more green area with the landscaped area that's going to surround the hotel. We're going to be asking you for to support our variance and the waiver that we're requesting. The height of the building is approximately 42 feet, approximately 1.5 to 2 feet above the limit within the zoning ordinance. I think it would have been possible to get to 40 feet, but if you look at the site, you'll see the topography, which gently slopes up from Prospect Street toward Barnes & Noble, and you'll see when you do calculate out the height. You have to do the mean average around the building, and that slope kind of takes away from that little bit that might have given us the ability to satisfy the ordinance. We would ask that you help us in that regard with a waiver and possibly support our request for a variance. The subject project is a Residence Inn by Marriott. It's Marriott's premium extended stay hotel brand. The brand caters to traditional travelers, project or group-based business travelers, hospital-related business, which is, I think, something that'll help Leahy, which is just around the corner on Essex Center Drive. It also targets corporate, social, educational, and sports-related groups. It is not a whole lot different than any other hotel. Customers and business clients enjoy the brand due to the consistency and quality of Marriott-branded hotels and the amenities of the large suite-style rooms. These larger rooms make the hotel desirable for customers, business clients, and families who may stay for longer periods of time involving a corporate event, a family function, a temporary employment obligation, or a tour of the North Shore sites and beaches. People that stay for an extended time period, 15 to 30 days, are usually short-term assignment and project-based corporate employees. Those involved in hospital-related business, and occasionally there are short-term displaced homeowners involved in insurance-related matters. In other words, if they have a fire, insurance will help them pay for a room, and they get to stay a little bit longer sometimes. The hotel will always be dynamically priced nightly, as is standard in hotels. Marriott will not allow the hotel to be rented and or leased in the fashion of an apartment. The nightly rates will be priced at competitive nightly rates in the market. This would make it extremely expensive for anyone to use it as an apartment if someone chooses to stay longer than more than a few weeks at a time. Based on data provided by Marriott, the Residence Inn brand typically only sees about 50% of the rooms rented staying for 5 or more nights. Based on data from Residence Inn hotels that PEG operates, the average length of stay is in the range of 4 to 8 nights, nowhere near the length of stay of an apartment tenant. The hotel, as I stated, will contain 142 rooms, no restaurant, no bar, but it will have an indoor pool and a small gym, and as I stated, a pantry for small snacks, packaged candy, chips, that sort of thing, and cold drinks. It's located within and on the land currently owned by the mall at North Shore LLC at the westerly side of the mall along Prospect Street. It will be next to Rockland Trust and on the northerly side of the Prospect Street traffic light. Entrance will be from the mall on the easterly side of the building facing Barnes & Noble. At this point, I'd refer you to the environmental section of the impact statement dealing with traffic. And that's been prepared by VHB professionals. And that traffic report, I think, was attached to my submission. And I'd like to have Michael Santos, not George, Michael, from VHB, make his brief presentation, if you'd allow me to do so. Thank you.
My name's Michael Santos. My address is 28 Blaine Ave in Worcester, Massachusetts. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I represent the applicant from VHB, a registered professional engineer in Massachusetts, and we are responsible for preparing the traffic impact evaluation that was submitted on April 21st, 2023 of this year. We do have a few slides that I prepared for this. I'm just going to go over kind of the high-level summary of the traffic study and our findings. So you can go to the next slide. Just to orient you with the project is located within the North Shore Mall in the northwest portion. It's on the site of where the current Logan Express airport shuttle service exists. It'll be replacing that use. The existing site currently has 250 parking spaces that will be removed as part of this project. And again, the project consists of a 142 all-suites hotel. We'll be providing 102 parking spaces on the site with additional parking spaces licensed through the North Shore Mall in the adjacent parking lot if the need arises. Access to the site, it's hard to see on this, so we have this board over here. Steve will be getting into that a little bit in more detail. Access is provided off of this circulatory roadway that serves the North Shore Mall uses. Where this plan shows another access point off of Prospect Street, so right in, right out. That's still, we're still discussing the need for that with the town, so that may be changed in the future. And
Just for everyone's information, this slideshow is also in the packet that was handed to you at the end if you want to follow along.
yeah, it's towards the end of the package where it's a little bit out of order. And again, you can see we can go to the next slide. So again, you can see the site. It's within the North Shore Mall. Good access to the highway, with the interchange on Andover Street and Route 128. In the traffic study, we estimated trip generation expected for the project. So what that's based on is empirical data collected for similar hotels throughout the country. And they develop rates based on the number of rooms per hotel. It's a standard traffic engineering practice to use that database. We looked at trip generation for the morning peak hour, the evening peak hour, and the Saturday peak hour, and the midday of Saturday. Those represent the peak hours of both commuter traffic and for hotel traffic. And again, hotels, their traffic is kind of dispersed throughout the day more than what you would see in an office or a residential development. So the traffic is better dispersed throughout the course of a day. Based on this data, we'd expect this site to generate 45 trips in the morning. That's 24 entering and 21 exiting. 51 during the evening. So that's from 5 to 6. The morning would be around from 8 to 9 or 7 to 8. And then again on Saturday, 63 trips in the middle of the day. So that'd be around noontime. 31 entering and 32 exiting. So what you'd see is about one trip entering every 2 minutes or so, and then another trip exiting every 2 minutes or so. And again, this is going to be replacing an existing shuttle service parking lot. As part of the study, we didn't get into great detail with the operations of that, but again, those trips will also be removed. So it's possible that this site, when we compare it to the existing shuttle lot, that it may generate less, it may generate a little bit more, but again, it's a pretty low trip generator. We also did traffic counts at the intersection of Essex Center Drive and Prospect Street during those 3 time periods: the morning, evening, and Saturday midday peaks. And just for reference, at that specific intersection, you'd see around 1,000 to 1,200 vehicles traveling through during the peak period. So, our trip generation is much lower. It's probably about maybe a 2% bump up of what you would see for the existing traffic volumes on the surrounding roadways. We can go to the next slide. And again, this shows the points of access for the site. So again, the North Shore Mall is served by several several driveways throughout the surrounding roadway network. You can see those. They're the sort of light blue circles. The primary points of access you'll see are the on North Shore Mall Road towards the underpass at 128. We expect, I think, the majority of the traffic will be coming in through that point of access. There's another primary access point off of Andover Street, Route 114, to the northeast. And then the third point of access is off of Prospect Street. And you can see a couple other circles that serve more minor driveways throughout the site. So, not only this is, will generate around 40 to 60 trips per hour, but all of that traffic will disperse throughout, to each one of these driveways. So it's not like you're not seeing that total impact at one specific location. Okay, we can go to the next one. And just to summarize, again, this is just a summary of the traffic impact evaluation that we provided in April. Again, 45 to 63 trips per hour. That's both entering and exiting trips. The existing site contains 250 parking spaces. That's currently generating some level of traffic, depending on the turnover of the vehicles there right now. We'll be replacing the existing uses on the site. It could potentially result in a reduction in trips related to the site. It might be even, or it might be a little bit more, but I think what you'll see is that it's going to be generally around the same level of traffic. We did look at the traffic operations at the intersection of Prospect Street and Essex Center Drive, just to get a sense of what the overall impact of this project is going to be on the surrounding roadway networks. We just picked that intersection. It's sort of a representative location that traffic might be going through. And really what we found was that there's really no need for any additional capacity. That intersection and the other intersections that serve the site can handle this project. This project, the traffic from this will sort of be absorbed into the much larger North Shore Mall, which generates hundreds of vehicles per hour. Also, we'll be getting into this later, but we're proposing to install a new crosswalk that connects the site to the existing parking lot in the North Shore Mall. The design of that will be refined, but we've been coordinating with the town on that, potentially installing a pedestrian-actuated flashing beacon. And again, the parking supply, that's all in compliance with the zoning requirements. We don't think that we'll need the extra parking on the North Shore Mall parking lot, but it is there if the need arises. It's available to us. So thank you. Be available for any questions later.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to try to continue quickly with a very short presentation relative to the physical and community impact. And I'm going to let, after I get through, Steve Glowacki will try to run through and highlight stormwater management, environment, and we have attached, I think you'd see, we have photometrics with regard to the lighting, and Steve may touch on those and then quickly touch on the plans that are associated with the project, the site plan, topography, everything of that nature, very quickly. I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with the site by now, and I think we would probably be repeating ourselves and what is to come, as Andrew stated, in the future once we do the peer review, and I don't want to burden you with that right now. Give me a second here and get to where I have to be. The physical aspect of the project, it's based on similar-sized hotels, It's anticipated that the new hotel will directly create anywhere between 25 and 30 new jobs within Peabody and additionally create or generate business for local and regional vendors that will be doing business with the hotel. It is projected that the hotel will run an average of 81% occupancy during the year at an average of 1.2 guests per room. The hotel will bring more than 50,000 visitors to Peabody. Based upon data from Oxford Economics for the Boston metro region, the average visitor spends approximately $952 per visit. At an average of 4 days per visit, that translates to over $12 million in annual guest spend created from the hotel. Those are just estimates based on what the experts say for people visiting hotels of this nature. Again, based on projected occupancy and upon the revenue projections for the hotel and current state and city tax rates assessed on hotel stays, not real estate taxes, sales tax revenue will average $485,000 to the city of Peabody on an annual basis and $503,000 to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts per year. This is a total of over $9,800,000 in sales tax over a 10-year period, with $4,850,000 going to the city of Peabody. It is further estimated that based on a property tax forecast study provided by Ryan Tax Advisors, that the hotel will pay more than $200,000 in real estate taxes per year once the property achieves its fully stabilized value. It's very possible that there's a higher figure involved once it is stabilized, but that's a low estimate. As far as community impact, it should be noted that the project makes every effort to be within the character and scale of the neighboring properties. It is located to the right of Rockland Trust, a 3-story building, to the left of a 3-story building at the Prospect Street entrance to the mall, and across from 2 large complexes with 2- and 4-story buildings. Avalon has 2-, 3-, and 4-story buildings, and it's across from an unfinished and rather unsightly duplex development directly across the street. The strip of green along Prospect Street is going to be widened somewhat and is to be intensely landscaped. I'd like to have you take a good look at the landscape plan that's been provided to you. They've done quite a bit of work on that because it's been requested that we pay quite a bit of attention to the strip of land on Prospect Street. There's going to be quite a few trees, and hopefully it'll be something that will be suitable for the area. Grade changes and cut and fill are almost completely eliminated, and every effort has been made to eliminate exposure of the trash collector, the transformer, and the delivery entrances. The landscape area around the hotel and along Prospect Street will be far greater than what currently exists on the site. New trees and shrubs will be planted in all of these areas in much larger numbers than currently exist. Again, I'd ask that you take a good look at that plan because a lot of thought went into it. The design of the hotel and the mix of exterior coverings is extremely tasteful and compatible with the surroundings. If you take a look at the elevations that we presented, I think you'll find that to be true, and we're going to have a representative of the architect briefly go through that with you at the end of our presentation. We've tried very hard to make this something that is nice to look at and tasteful. The coverings will consist of Sherwin-Williams products, brick veneer, dark bronze aluminum paneling, and bronze aluminum metal highlights. All the lighting is going to be very indirect and will not project beyond the parcel being developed. Physically, I believe I've gone through that, and the community aspect, I believe I've pretty much finished. The lighting narrative that is attached tells you that the exterior lighting consists of parking area lights and NLS ballards. In other words, the bollards or ballads, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, that they use along walkways. Cut sheets for those types of lighting are attached, so it gives you detailed technical specifications for the lighting. The area lights are what we call BAA compliant, IDA sky, dark sky approved, and DLC listed. All area lights used on this project are T4 beam spread, which is a forward throw so that adjacent properties are not affected by light pollution. I'm not sure exactly what all of that means, but the engineers, if necessary, can go through that with you. The calculation zone statistics are 3.2 average to 1 foot candle minimum, which is an excellent glare ratio. All bollards are NLS brand, as well as with integral cut-off grills. In other words, the lighting is on top of the bollard, there are grills, and the light is reflected down to reveal the pathway that you're walking on. That is done to avoid glare. And again, there are cut sheets for all of this lighting as you go through the plan. I think that's basically as far as I want to go. I'd like to turn it over now to Steve Glowacki, who has far more engineering experience than I have, and I think can quickly highlight the cut, fill, stormwater management highlights, et cetera, and perhaps go through the plans that we gave you. And we'd hope to be able to wrap it up at that and answer any general questions or even technical questions that they might have. One thing that I do want to point out is that on this plan, at the request up here, there is a curb cut along Prospect Street, and community development has asked us to eliminate that. It was a curb cut that had right in and right out only to avoid left-hand turns and cross traffic. We thought that it might be good to have that for purposes of safety, emergency access, et cetera. We're told, however, that the fire department does not believe that it's necessary. It might be nice and convenient to have, but they believe it may not be necessary, and community development has told us that they prefer not to have the curb cut. That's something that we can live with and eliminate. I just want to say that if in fact in the future, however, it becomes apparent for emergency or fire safety or police or ambulances, et cetera, that it's found to be necessary or wanted, we can come back and do that. We're not opposed to being called back and said, hey, look, we'd like to make a change. And the other thing that Drew may have highlighted, and Michael may have highlighted also, the changes from the plan that we have presented is a crosswalk that the Scott Richards from the police department had asked us to put in case there is a need for the overflow traffic in the other part of the parking that is going to be made available to us on an as-need basis by the North Shore Mall. He asked us to put a crosswalk in, and we're going to move it from the present location a few feet down here at the suggestion of Drew. He felt as though it would be safer, and we're not in disagreement at all. We can do that. It's going to be a crosswalk with one of those pedestrian-activated lights, a yellow light. We can't put in a red light because if we did, that would throw off all of the timing and the traffic flow at the other two lights at the intersection of Prospect Street and Essex Center Drive. That's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Steve Glowacki.
Name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, I'm Steve Glowacki with R.J. O'Connell and Associates. We are a professional engineering firm located at 80 Montvale Ave, Stoneham, Massachusetts. We have included sections in the environmental impact assessment relative to subsurface waters, groundwaters, erosion and sediment, and the protection thereof, and also outline the utilities. I won't get in depth in that material because I frankly don't want to bore everyone to tears, but I will certainly cover at a high level and can answer any detail that you wish to cover. But that said, I will get into the site plans briefly, give an overview of the components of those site plans. So first, I direct your attention to the site plan C4, which shows the parking areas, and the parking area around north, west, and the south sides of the building, and we provide 102 spaces. As Mr. Ankeles pointed out, we have a pedestrian connection that goes across to the parking lot to the south. It's also important to note that through that parking lot, connectivity comes from bookstore through a ramp system up to the Macy's sidewalk system. So we do feel there's some connectivity to the mall as it stands today. And this pedestrian connectivity also offers additional parking as part of an agreement with Simon should they need a few additional spaces in that parking area. The site plan itself, the parking areas have been designed to be compliant with the bylaws and regulations, including stall width and the like. There is a drop-off planned for the south side, which is to be the main entry. As Mr. Ankeles pointed out, the main access would come from the south. So with vehicles entering, they can come into that drop-off area where there are 4 ADA spaces available, as well as a drop-off area for for guests who might wish to unload their luggage and so forth. The site itself is designed to be compliant with zoning regulations, including setbacks, the front setback, rear and side setbacks. As Mr. Ankeles pointed out, we are seeking relief and hope to be seeking relief with the Zoning Board of Appeals relative to height and the landscape strips themselves. But again, as Mr. Ankeles pointed out, we have enhanced open space quite a bit with an increase of about 12,000 square feet throughout the site through those open areas. A trash enclosure is planned for the northeast corner of the site, and that'll be enclosed with a gate to keep all the refuse from blowing and moving around at the top corner of the site. In terms of grading and drainage, if I may pull up C2, you can note in your materials, there is quite a grading drop from the east side down to the northwest corner. And the site slopes currently from elevation 83 down to 75. We worked extensively with the architects trying to balance the site out and set the building at such an elevation as to reduce cuts and fills and balance the site out. Stormwater for the site currently flows again from east to west to a series of catch basins in the bottom corner. We hope to enhance stormwater quite a bit, and some of those measures will include surface waters being captured and gathered in catch basins with sumps and hoods, installation of subsurface basins, both to the west and to the south of the building. And isolator rows will be installed in those, which help treat stormwater. And then finally, we will implement a stormwater pollution prevention plan, an operation of maintenance, and a long-term pollution prevention plan. The net result of that will be an increase in treatment for stormwater. There really isn't currently treatment on site. And also a reduction of flows leaving the site. And that, again, is achieved through the use of the subsurface chambers. Finally, all those stormwater measures are, of course, compliant with the Massachusetts DEP Stormwater Handbook. Very quickly for utilities, if you'll note on C3, we are in conjunction, in discussions with the city staff, we are providing water service from Prospect Street. The intent is to provide water service from Prospect Street, both for domestic and fire service, and that would include the installation of 3 fire hydrants on site. In addition, sanitary will be discharged northward into the existing system, into an existing manhole at the north of the site. Gas service will also come from, we are proposing to come from Prospect Street as well, with a new connection to the main in the street, and again, quite simply tying into the north portion of the building. And then finally, electric service, which we still need to coordinate with the Peabody Municipal Light Plant. But the intent is to pull that electric service from an existing pole along Prospect Street and down into a transformer sitting at the northeast corner of the site. Although Mr. Ankley's touched on landscape, I'd just like to briefly add that as part of this landscape, we intend, as you can see, to plant quite a few shade trees, which are important for different reasons on the site, specifically for the more green effect with heat island loss and the like. And those shade trees would include red maples, eastern redbud, dogwood, honey locust, and oak, and then a mixture of ornamental grasses and shrubs throughout the site. As Mr. Ankley's pointed out, we do have the elevations, the building elevations available, and the architect, I believe, is joining us as well, should any questions arise for that. But otherwise, I would ask for any questions you may have of anyone on the team, and we certainly would be prepared to answer those.
Anyone have any questions? Joseph?
Just a comment. The only issue I had is basically being resolved in your presentation, and that is that the exit, the western exit there onto Prospect Street, I think that would cause major problems because the backup on that street light on Essex Lane backs up to that point a lot of times too, and so I agree that having that eliminated would be fruitful. So.
Yeah.
And any recommendation we make tonight, I would suggest that would be part of it, as far as us, confirming what has already been said.
Yes, no, we've listened to community development, and while we'd like to have that, it doesn't seem as though it's going to be possible, and we're amenable to that. But again, if it turns out that it's needed in the future, we're willing to come back and do it. I think Kurt Bellavance gave us a little bit of an education and informed us as to why, and we've listened, and it's something that we can accommodate.
Anyone else? Roy, please.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. Just a few things. I guess, first of all, the crosswalk. So you planning on moving that in a westerly direction a little bit down that circulation road? I would think that it would make sense to have that land on an island. Is that what you're doing?
That's exactly what...
Okay, because it doesn't kind of make sense the way it's drawn.
To confirm, we met with construction review yesterday. If you look at the plan, there's the intersection of Essex Center Drive and Essex Center Lane. We originally asked that the crosswalk be moved to that stoplight area that would go through the island right there to the other island of grass, or the other island on the other side. We were then told that they've already previously spoken with the police department, stating that that would not be possible. We've since then asked for them to move the crosswalk to the existing island that it abuts, shown
Right.
currently
A
on
little
the
bit
plan.
west,
Yeah.
so it lands on the island.
Correct. And I think what's going to happen there, Mr. Smoes, is that not only is it going to land on the island, but we're going to improve the pedestrian access and egress to that. So that Drew came up with, Mr. Levin came up with some suggestions as to how we could improve pedestrian access and egress, and we're going to try to incorporate that as best we possibly can to give this a little bit more of what he calls a campus atmosphere, so that people can, when they come to the hotel, walk from the hotel. The objective, hopefully, is to get them to go from the hotel to use the facilities at the shopping center, the restaurants, et cetera, and the shops. So we want to make it as easy as possible, but we also need to make it safe. So considering those two issues, safety and access, convenience, et cetera, I think we have to put a little bit more work into it, and we'll be coming back with, hopefully, improvements that will satisfy Mr. Levin's concerns and the concern that you had, Mr. Smoes, with regard to making it a little bit safer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, few more things, if you'll indulge me. I think your architecturals, your elevations look beautiful. The colors, the patterns, the textures, and all that stuff. So that being said.
Thank you.
I think some way, shape, or form, I think you need to highlight to the guests when they're in this hotel that there's an existing very easy way to get on Route 128 southbound, and you never leave the property. Enhance the signage to get you into that little slip ramp that goes right around, right by Tesla, and get you right onto 128 South. You never go out to 114, you never go out to Lowell Street, and off you go.
I think what we're going to try to do on behalf of Simon is do a little bit of advertising and present a site plan that shows people where restaurants are, where access and egress can be had, and will in fact include a site plan showing how you get onto Route 114, how you get onto Route 128, off, on, etc. But that's going to be, that's one of those little handouts that you get when you walk into a hotel.
I mean, that slip lane's been there since I was born.
Makes good sense.
It does. I like the curb cut, and why I like the curb cut is because it gives someone a way in and out without having to go through the mall, and it also gives direct access for the trash truck to come in and get the dumpsters. But that's just me. Let's see. I think you really need to look at the timing of the traffic signal on Prospect, the mall signal on Prospect. The timing, the sensing of cars is horrible. You sit there and wait and wait and wait, and there isn't a single car moving. It's terrible. And it's mostly terrible going from Lowell to 114. It backs up precipitously. So that said...
Let me point out in response, that's going to be done.
yeah, I'm not saying to replace the signals.
No,
Just fix the sensing and the timing. Make them work right.
What we did when we originally installed that, after the mall authorized the installation of both of those lights, we turned over the operation and control of that to the city of Peabody. So what we can do is help and meet with Scott Richards and have maybe somebody from VHP and Scott, Captain Richards, review it and pay attention to what you're saying, because that's something that the city has the ability to do without our permission.
Understood. Thank you. And I'm just wondering, are you considering a blue roof or solar for this hotel?
Mr. Steinfeld?
A blue roof or solar, either or?
Not in the plans right now.
Okay, fine. And the last question, I guess, I don't think anybody can answer, but where's Logan Express going?
Can't answer that. Unless, Mark?
Yeah, at this time, Roy, you know, I'll say this, that, I'm sorry. Roy, I don't have an answer for that. You know, it was a great deal that came to us through Tom Walsh, and we embraced it as a temporary type of accommodation. And I know there's some discussion about seeing if it can go over to Liberty Tree Mall, but at this time, with our parking the way it is, it's highly unlikely it will be able to be accommodated going forward at North Shore.
Can always go up, Mark.
Well,
Can always go up.
I can tell you that's extremely expensive, A, to install and B, to maintain, and I don't see it anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that those two different uses have a
Synergy?
synergy, because somebody could conceivably fly into Logan, get on the bus, get to the hotel, likely not even rent a car, do their business, take an Uber to go some meeting, come back, get on the Logan Express, and off they go back to the airport. So I think somebody should look at trying to keep that thing there. I have no idea why that Logan Express works at the North Shore Mall, but doesn't work on Route 1. It boggles my mind to try to figure that one out. But
I think it has everything to do with the management team at the mall.
I think it does, but they couldn't make it happen on Route 1, but they seem to be able to make it happen there. And if they went to a half-hour schedule instead of a 1-hour schedule, they could probably make it add 25, 30% users to that thing. So that's all.
I'll just say this, Massport has been absolutely fantastic to deal with. We've not had a single issue at the property, but I will also tell you that it's not as simple to navigate that kind of operation at North Shore, because we have to get permission from a number of, like, for instance, department stores. Some of our outlots have language in their leases that prohibit certain uses in front of their stores. So that's why the operation was placed where it was. It has been successful, but at this point, you know, as you can hear, you know, there are many benefits, including the tax benefits of having the hotel now coming to the property.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please, Mark.
To the chair. So will those as-needed spots be marked like for residents in use only, so the hotel will have that minimum number of parking, that 107 spots?
Yes, it will. It'll be done on a formal basis. You won't see it, but it'll be done on a formal basis with a license from the mall at North Shore LLC, which owns the real estate, and there will be a license given to the joint venture participant that is going to build the hotel, that will allow them to use on an as-need basis anywhere from the, I believe it's 7, is it 5 spaces? 5 spaces that we need to satisfy the ordinance to up to 20. And there will be spaces set aside in this area right here and here. You're welcome. Roy, it's about $14,000 to $16,000 a space for a parking garage. And if we could get Massport to get a grant from Department of Transportation or elsewhere, believe me, we'd be there.
Dr. Otto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Roy that it would be really optimal to have another way in and out of the property. I've observed parking behavior for many years, and inevitably people want to park closest to the door. And so in the configuration, if we don't have the slip ramps on Prospect Street, someone's going to drive all the way around, find no parking spaces, and then have to, who knows what, do a 20-point turn to get back out and facing the other way. So I wonder if there are other options that the design team might look at that would satisfy that particular issue.
What we intend to do at the request of community development is do a cutout so that if you have an emergency vehicle at the rear of the hotel, in this area here, we're going to try to put a cutout where the exit would be, which does not allow access to Prospect Street, but allows an emergency vehicle and a service vehicle to back up into that cutout, back up into the trash compactor, and would allow an ambulance or police car to do that. While we'd like to have that, we're fully cognizant of the argument put forth by community development and Kurt Bellavance regarding the safety, and as your member has pointed out, the backup along Prospect Street, we're aware of that. And I think perhaps this may be the lesser of two evils. But as I've stated before, we're going to take and submit the radius plans, the turning plans to the fire department, to Captain Darling, who in turn is going to turn it over to his people and the chief of the department. And if it turns out for safety purposes, it becomes necessary in the future, or as we are going along with construction, we'd come back to the board with your permission, of course, and ask that we can do that modification. I think it all depends upon whether it becomes necessary for safety purposes.
Thank you. One additional question, or comment, I guess. I think the landscaping plan looks great. My thought is that the design team could move even further toward less grass and more planting, especially native plants that can survive without the application of gallons and gallons of water. So I would encourage the landscaping team to look at that a little bit further.
Did you get that, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a couple of comments, if I may, from the chair. First, the crosswalk is a real good idea, and I'd hate to see Logan Express leave the North Shore. And if I could talk to your engineer about the roof water runoff and where that's going to go.
Roof water runoff will be collected in a network of pipes and a manifold around the building. There are several roof zones, if you will, throughout the building itself. So it became necessary to utilize the same stormwater system as the surface waters. Now, it's important to note that that stormwater is going to flow through the same manifold. However, it will all be treated in its entirety through the use of isolator rows within the subsurface basins.
You're going to have vaults underground?
That's correct.
and they will leach back into the groundwater? Is that the plan?
That's the intent. There is, the general soil composition of this area is a type C, which doesn't leach. It's not a fantastic leaching rate. However, we have provided sizable basins in there, and we intend to do some exploratory as part of our building soils testing for the building. So we'll make a sound determination of that infiltration rate, if you will, to try to infiltrate what we can.
The whole site is impervious now, so.
That's right, yeah, essentially. And there's an uptick, as I mentioned, of more than 12,000 square feet of open space, so that in itself helps. The reason we're adding those chambers, believe it or not, is because the pipe coming out of the site is a smaller pipe, so the intent is to arrest that stormwater so there's no chance of flooding or anything like that. And certainly there'll be a reduction in flows, including the roof water.
All right, I don't know if this falls on your plate or not. Snow removal, snow storage, will the snow be hauled off the site? Who will be responsible for the snow removal, the mall or Marriott?
My understanding is this will be a separate standalone lot, so unless there's some cross agreement made about snow removal, I would assume Marriott would remove their own snow. However, it should be pointed out, on our site plan C4, we did show snow areas, snow mounding areas, if you will, adjacent to the parking areas around the site. And the intent for those areas would be to accommodate stormwater in and around the proposed trees. So obviously, we're not going to stack snow on top of the trees or shrubs, but within and between those areas. So, and we've provided what we believe is sufficient, storage for that snow. However, we live in New England, and at times, snow is enough that has to be removed.
You could add it to the mall's pile.
That's right.
And lastly, the height of the building. You were looking for a waiver, but my concern is that did the fire department have an issue with the height of the building? Can they ladder that roof?
To the best of my knowledge, they don't. If you took, we did a study of comparables, and as I stated, you have the apartment building over on by Daniela's, which is substantially higher than ours. I think by a good 12 to 16 feet, somewhere around there. It's at least an extra floor, and then you add on your mechanicals and I believe it's a penthouse that they put on top of that. And it is substantially lower than the Leahy Hospital building, and the fire department is able to service both. So the conclusion is that they should be able to service ours, which is, as I say, 1.5 feet higher than the 40-foot limit.
I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, can I just provide some comment from Community Development Department? Okay. So as Attorney Ankles has mentioned, we did meet, and I had mentioned earlier, we did meet with the applicant and their team yesterday. We discussed many of the things heard here this evening. To the point about the no curb cut, or to looking at eliminating that curb cut on Prospect Street, just in a roughly kind of like why we, as a community development department, believe that that curb cut needs to be eliminated is just in that kind of 435-foot space between Essex Lane intersection and then Keys Drive. There's 6 curb cuts that already exist in that area. There's 2 directly across the street at 50 to 54 Prospect Street. You have the entrance to the mall. You have the entrance to Essex Lane housing development. Next, across the street from that, then you have the Keys Drive entrance. You also have the Rockland Trust Bank entrance as well. So if you do miss the Essex Lane entrance to the mall, that curb cut still will be existing at Rockland Bank. Vehicles could always pull into Rockland Bank, and then that curb cut that exists onto this parking lot site will be remaining as shown on the plans as well. So that does provide you a way to get in. We just feel as that it's too many curb cuts in that area. The point about the backup, I know it's right in, right out. They don't match up either with either of the other side of curb cuts, so you'll now be looking at multiple curb cuts trying to pull out at the same time. That was our reasoning behind that elimination. We've spoken with fire department and Police department have also said that that curb cut is not needed as well, and that if it's eliminated, that is totally fine. Second point that was brought up this evening is this idea, or not idea, but the request for an enhanced pedestrian circulation throughout the whole property. We in community development look at this potential for this whole area to be a campus-type feel. We feel that if you are coming to this hotel, you are most likely going to want to access the restaurants that are just built up that this planning board, approved in 2018, the Plaza redevelopment plan over there with all these restaurants and pedestrian spaces. So we'd love to see a plan, and on the plan, enhanced circulation, mainly pedestrian access towards the Macy's, where there's a sidewalk that already exists that would then circulate around the mall, as well as to placing sidewalk that would allow you to access that staircase over by Barnes & Noble that would already laid out as well, that then would provide you internal access to the mall as well. So this would provide you two separate ways to get inside or around the mall as well. We discussed moving the crosswalk. We want to make sure, again, it's an idea of pedestrian safety. We feel that it'd be better to go to an island that would provide a sort of refuge for pedestrians as they're waiting while that flashing beacon is going to cross the road. And then second to that, we did speak a little bit that residents will be kind of providing some sort of lighting on the building, as is the lit up sign, but if we would ask that any lighting that's presented on the building, that it be down lighting rather than up lighting, putting lighting up into the sky. But these are all items that we did discuss with the applicant already. Like we mentioned at the beginning, this will need third-party review. These are being finalized right now, these contracts. This plan could come back to us looking differently at that time. But again, we asked the applicants to be here tonight to present this plan as an opportunity for the planning board to ask any questions, as well as to provide the first presentation of this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I might add to that is, if I may, is that one of the problems that we have, you don't see on a plan right now, is that there are 3 different owners of real estate up at the North Shore Shopping Center. You have May Department Stores, you have Simon, and then you have J.C. Penney. And it's very difficult for us at times to be able to resolve the differences between or the interests that each one of them may have. We also have, with regard to when you talk about Logan Express and the parking, you take a look at the PGA building and Shaw's, and then you take a look at J.C. Penney and Nordstrom's. And if you're at all familiar with commercial leases, they have what they call parking obligations created by drawing a circle and creating a radius within a certain distance of the subject property, and they negotiate a number of spaces within that particular radius. So we not only deal with different owners, but we deal with different tenants and the rights that they may have pursuant to ground leases, which is the case with regard to PGA and also with regard to the medical office building. So management, to their extreme credit, has been able to deal with that issue in providing Logan Express with the number of spaces it wants or needs or asks for now. The request is for a very large number of spaces, and it makes it extremely difficult for us to satisfy that request. Despite that, negotiations and talks continue. It may go to Liberty Tree, and again, if we could get 14 grand a space from the Department of Transportation, we might see a nice little garage there, which would work, really work. And we'd love to see something like that happen. So we'll continue to work with community development, with the planning board, with Mr. Levin, and hopefully we'll be able to solve the problem and continue to provide the people of the city of Peabody with what they need. Thank you for the time and we'll be back, and we'll be able to answer more questions and hopefully present you with something that is improved. Thank you.
Attorney Ankleys. This is going to be on the agenda for the foreseeable future. Would you like to request a continuance a month out, or a month and a half out?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to request a continuance a month or 6 weeks out?
I don't know. I'm not sure how long it will take because Bob Langley is on vacation. He's putting together two proposals for us for peer review. It depends upon the depth of that peer review and how much time either one of the people that he is dealing with can give us. I think we're going to need at least a month for a continuance, and we probably may even need it beyond that, but I'd like to be able to stay in touch with the city planner here, Mr. Levin, and communicate our needs and report what additional information and whether or not our peer review has been complete as we go along, if that's acceptable to the board.
Would you suggest a continuance to June 20th as a first?
That would put us 2 meetings out. We have 1 meeting in July, which would be the 20th. So the next meetings are June 1st and then the 15th, and then July 20th.
June 15th might need a continuance at that point in time because I don't.
I would say, I would recommend that, let's just say there's a snowstorm that we can't meet for some reason on the 15th, if you would go to maybe the 20th, just in case if we have to postpone this meeting. But I think that works. Go out 2 meetings. We should have an idea back about the third-party reviews. You can provide an update to the board at that time. We just ask that applicants ask for a continuance past the meeting date, just in case if that meeting doesn't happen for some reason.
So the 2 dates you're talking about, Andrew?
So the next planning board meeting is June 1st, but then the next one, which you seem to want to come to, the June 15th meeting, would be the next one you're on. We just ask that you request a continuance for a date past that by, say, 5 days, just in case if the planning board can't meet.
Okay. June 15th?
Formally ask, please.
May we have a continuance?
You would come to the June 15th meeting, but we'd ask that you would ask for a continuance of action past that date in case if the board cannot meet on that exact date.
I think I understand what Andrew's saying, but yes, June 15th, and if we need to, we'll ask for a continuance to
20th,
the July.
Ask for the 20th.
Oh, for the 20th, excuse me. In other words, you're saying the submission or the request is going to have to come in by the 20th. So I'm sorry.
Would someone make a motion to extend to June 20th, please?
Mr. Chairman, move the board grant the request of the applicant to continue this project until the meeting, until June 20th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
I know I've extended my time long. I've gone well over, but thank you very, very much for your patience and time.
Through the chair, just if I could make a comment.
Floor is yours.
And I'm no traffic expert or anything like that, but I'm just wondering if they had submitted these plans and down by that in and out thing on Prospect, the curb cut on Prospect, if they didn't even show it and it was just a squared off dead end, if someone wouldn't say, oh my goodness, you mean to tell me a vehicle has to traverse 500 feet around the building only to get to a dead end? How do they get out? How do they make a turn? But they put one there, and you don't want it. And it's clearly only, I guess if you say, let's see where the north arrow is. Yeah, so it's in a northeasterly direction. So northeast. Coming from Lowell Street, going to 114, at this spot, it's approximately northeast. you can only come in from that direction, and you wouldn't allow people to make a left turn to cross to get in. And then getting out is pushing you into the northeast direction, and it doesn't back up there. This road doesn't back up in a northeast direction. It backs up in a southwest direction, going towards Lowell Street. There's no backups here. There's moving traffic all the time here because there's nothing to stop you in going in that direction.
The Community Development Department, while traffic is a worried issue on that curb cut existing, our main concern is that there is 6 existing curb cuts in that area. This is a non-existing curb cut. They're going to be creating one. I get what you're saying about that you can pull in. We're more worried about that you are now looking over your shoulder left to be trying to pull out while there's 3 other curb cuts in that vicinity that you're also trying to be aware of. The Rockland Trust one is, I would say, 40 feet from that curb cut. The Cross Keys, or Keys Drive one is 65 feet from that one.
I understand. But I also understand that there's 2 separate entities that are experts in traffic. And I'm not saying that somebody in the planning board department isn't acquainted with traffic, but you're going to have 2 separate experts in traffic looking at this. And I would say that you should take their opinion. So you got the expert who just presented, and then you're going to have the peer review expert on traffic. Just take in what they say. That's what I suggest.
And we did agree that they could get rid of that traffic because they are agreeing to eliminate it, which means that it is not affecting the property in a way that would be so detrimental that they've agreed to eliminate that.
Comments? Recommendation for the ZBA on that?
Mr. Chairman, there has been a comprehensive permit filed under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40B. As part of this process, the Zoning Board of Appeals is the permit granting authority for this type of application, but as part of this process, local boards in the community are able to provide comment and recommendations to the Board of Appeals as part of their decision-making process. This application and plan was submitted to the board, I believe at their last meeting. It's also been on the online digital packet. If the planning board wishes to draft up a letter on behalf of any more than B2 with that concern.
I've looked over the drawings. I assume that there's a need for housing, because if there wasn't a need for housing, nobody would be spending the money to build it. It takes a dilapidated dirt lot that's been that way for probably upwards of at least 15 or more years, puts it on the tax rolls and makes it look nice. I think we should, as a board, decide to suggest to the ZBA that we endorse or we recommend approval of the project, something like that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. Otto.
I'm embarrassed to say that I have not reviewed the plans. Thank you for looking over them, Roy. And I concur with your need about housing, your ideas about need for housing.
If the board so chooses not to provide comment this evening, I don't believe they've actually been in front of the ZBA yet. I believe they have filed and they're still going in front of them. So if the board wishes to put this on the 6:15 agenda or the 6:1 agenda to discuss further and then provide a comment to give everybody more time to review, that's also very possible as well.
Our chairman's not here, and 2 other members are not present either, so I don't have a problem with that.
Well,
I think it makes sense, as this project may be evolving through the ZBA process, to really know what we're recommending. And we can't really do that now until that transpires.
My own opinion is there is a need for housing locally, or they wouldn't be building it. And it's a good spot up there. It is a good fit. It's not being rammed in anybody's neighborhood. It's up on Route 1. And I would be more inclined to agree with a 40B up there. So that's my opinion on it.
They will be placed on the 6-1 agenda for further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.
Second. We have a second.
Second.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.